Traditional residential home architecture is incredibly fragile. When exposed to modern kinetic warfare, specifically vertical threats like drone-dropped munitions, standard wood frame houses offer almost zero resistance. But if you engineer the structure specifically to counter those forces, the outcome changes completely. A purpose-built fortress home deflects the exact same payload, keeping the interior space entirely intact. Today, we are going to draft a comprehensive, actionable structural blueprint for a World War III survival home. We will design a space engineered to withstand direct kinetic impacts. Before we begin drawing lines, you need a few prerequisites. Gather your drafting tools and review your local building codes. Most importantly, you must select a designated building plot that features natural subterranean drainage. Surviving a global conflict does not require an endless military-grade budget. It relies on applied physics and architectural geometry. By shaping the environment and materials correctly, you can neutralize explosive forces. Look at this rendering of our building site. To establish a secure baseline, mark an excavation perimeter on a sloped plot. We are mandating that at least 60% of the home's total volume must be firmly anchored below ground level. Once the primary structure is seated in the ground, you need to execute a process called earth berming. Take the excavated dirt and densely pack it against any remaining exposed exterior walls until it slopes upward to smoothly meet the roofline. The reason we create these smooth slopes is to manipulate explosive overpressure. If a blast wave from a missile approaches, the force travels up and over the sloped earth, completely bypassing the main structure. The most common failure point is leaving a vertical 90-degree exterior wall exposed at ground level. A flat wall takes the full blunt impact of a pressure wave, causing immediate structural failure. Leveraging the mass of the Earth itself is the only mathematically viable way to redirect explosive overpressure away from your living quarters. You are using the planet as your primary armor. Moving inside, we need to draft the internal wall structure. Standard framing will fail under pressure, so we specify a double-wall insulated concrete form system, creating a thick, continuous cavity for our core material. For that core material, standard residential concrete is simply too weak. You must mandate ultra-high-performance concrete, or UHPC. It possesses extreme compressive strength, making it highly resistant to cracking under immense external force. Inside the UHPC layer, you must embed a dense, crisscrossing rebar grid. This steel lattice needs to run continuously throughout every poured wall, floor, and ceiling. This cross-section shows exactly why the grid is necessary. When an impact hits the wall, the precise rebar geometry catches that force and distributes the kinetic energy outward, preventing the concrete from shattering. Never substitute this system with standard cinder blocks. Under the intense pressure of an explosion, hollow blocks compress and fragment, turning into high-velocity secondary shrapnel that shoots directly into the living space. The material synergy between the dense UHPC and the continuous steel rebar lattice transforms a rigid, brittle wall into a dynamic kinetic energy absorber. Shift your focus to the roof architecture. Flat roofs catch falling debris and absorb downward blasts. To counter this, your roof must have a steeply pitched profile with a minimum 45-degree angle. Over this pitched surface, you will draw a physical standoff net. This diagram compares a standard flat roof to a pitched roof, protected by a rigid chain-link barrier suspended exactly 3 feet above the primary surface. If a drone drops a munition directly overhead, it triggers on the standoff net. The explosion occurs harmlessly in midair, and the pitched roof underneath simply deflects the resulting shrapnel and falling debris. On your drafted structural plans, explicitly verify and label this critical 3-foot air gap dimension. If the net is drawn too close, the blast wave will still compromise the roof materials. Creating a physical air gap between the point of detonation and your home's structural envelope is the ultimate defense against vertical payloads. Transition to drafting the entryways. Standard wooden doors offer zero kinetic protection, so you must mandate the placement of heavy steel blast doors on the exterior. Look at this top-down blueprint layout. Any hallway leading from an exterior blast door into the main living area requires a mandatory 90-degree L-shaped turn. If blast energy breaches the front door, it travels straight and hits a dead-end reinforced wall rather than expanding into the home.
You must also eliminate all traditional ground floor glass windows. Substitute them with periscope-style light tubes that bend through the ceiling, or narrow ballistic glass slits that are too small to admit a drone. By eliminating direct linear pathways for both air and light, you ensure that even if a localized structural breach occurs at an entrance, the blast energy cannot penetrate your inner sanctum. Here's the fully integrated architectural plan. We have successfully combined exterior earth berms, internal UHPC walls, a standoff roofing net, and blast-proof L-shaped entryways into one cohesive design. You have taken standard residential drafting and escalated it into a hardened fortress, creating an environment ready to withstand global kinetic conflict scenarios. But structural defense is only the first phase of long-term survival. With the shell secured, the next instructional step is installing an off-grid NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical air filtration system to keep the air inside breathable.